Good evening, and welcome to a joint session of the Board of Selectmen and the School Committee for Tuesday, June 3rd, 2014. I'll ask Ray to call the school committee to order.
Call the school committee to order. Time is 6:38.
Cool. And Ray, I'll turn it over to you for some remarks, and then I will read the agenda.
Thank you, Irma. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen watching at home. I just wanted to make a very brief statement. Last night, Hingham lost one of its great citizens. Bob Falvey passed away after an illness. He was surrounded by family and went peacefully. And I just wanted to acknowledge the Falvey family, the Van Dyne family, and the Messina family, and wish them our deepest sympathies. Bob was a great citizen, a regular at town meeting, served on a number of boards, and most notably the school committee, and I thought it was appropriate to acknowledge him tonight. Hingham's lost a great man.
Thank you, Ray. It means a lot.
And I want to echo that. I was extremely fond of him, and for somebody that from halfway across the room when you heard, "Hey, pal," or the infamous, "Mr. Moderator, call the question."
I'm to call the question.
He is going to be greatly missed, but a great man.
Thank you very much. He loved the town, and he loved the service of giving of himself, and it was very important to his life. Thank you.
Let me read the agenda now. Between now and about 8 o'clock, give or take, we will be interviewing 5 candidates for the vacancy on the school committee seat. We'll then have 5 minutes for questions from the public, followed by around 8 o'clock, and these are timed because they're advertised. We will have 2 grant of locations. We will then reconvene as a joint school committee, Board of Selectmen, to discuss the interviews and perhaps vote. We'll wait and see on that. And then we'll do appointments and selectmen and town administrator reports, and we have several votes. So, with that, Betty Foley, would you bring the first candidate in?
Come on down.
You take it.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Aileen Calnan. I don't know if everybody got a copy of my resume and letter of interest or not, but I brought extra copies. If anybody still needs one, let me know. A little bit about myself. I am a lifelong resident of the South Shore. I lived in Quincy till I was 10, then my family moved to Duxbury, and I'm a proud graduate of the Duxbury Public Middle and High School. I then went on to Wellesley College, where I received my Bachelor of Arts in Political Science in 1984, and then went directly on to Boston College Law School, where I received my Juris Doctorate cum laude in 1987. I immediately returned to the South Shore and have been practicing law here ever since. Since approximately 2000, I've been working part-time. I currently work for the law office of Elizabeth Harling here in Hingham. I do primarily divorce work. And I think that I would be a very good candidate for this particular position for many reasons. One, I have a demonstrated, I believe, dedication to the Hingham Public Schools. I am just finishing my 8th year as either PTO vice president or president. I started out at the middle school as vice president, went on to president there, then I was vice president at the high school. I'm just concluding 2 years as president at the high school, and I'm now done with the PTO. When this opportunity arose, I thought it would be the perfect new fit for me. I did put my name into the talent bank for the town of Hingham last fall, but had not yet been called upon for any task. And I think that I would be a good fit for this because I have so much knowledge and background as far as what's going on in the school system. I'm familiar with the issues surrounding the park testing versus MCAS, the decision that needs to be made right away, the technological issues that are going to follow as a result of the need to transfer over to the park testing. I am certainly aware of the current negotiations going on with unions, the never-ending dilemma of level funding when it comes to the budget situation for the school committee, the ongoing discussions about full-day kindergarten or not, which is still an unresolved issue as far as the school department goes. I also believe that I have a demonstrated commitment to public service and community involvement. There were some things on my resume, but in addition, one thing I realized I had not put on there was I was actually the volunteer lawyer for the Hingham Playground Committee. I did all of the legal work for the playground when it was built, and that was quite contentious. There were neighbors who were not happy with it. We did have to relocate it because there were some neighbors that didn't want it in their backyard, and I was the person that was at the meeting dealing with those neighbors. Another thing that is not on my resume, I did just recently receive the First Justice's Award for Pro Bono Legal Excellence from the First Justices of the Plymouth Probate Court, the Barnstable Probate Court, and the Bristol Probate Court. So I believe that I also have the time commitment for this task. I, as I stated, only work part-time, and my youngest child is going to be a senior next year. She now has her own car and her license, and I find myself with quite a bit more free time on my hands than I had before. So between the time that I have available, my demonstrated commitment to the schools and public service, and also the skill set that I think I bring, partly as an attorney, I'm used to contentious situations. I certainly know all about keeping things confidential, which I believe sometimes arises with union negotiations. And I'm very clear on the issues of not even the slightest appearance of impropriety when dealing with the public. So I welcome your questions.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us. As you know, the Mass state law requires that we have a joint meeting and that the seat be filled by a joint session of the remaining school community members and the Board of Selectmen. And we have put together some questions for you that they cover a range of topics, some of which you've already touched on a little bit, so there might be some adjustment in some of our questions. Maybe I'll ask one, since you touched on the one I was going to ask. You have a child entering senior year. You say you work part-time. In my mind, that would be an ideal opportunity to not spend time in late-night meetings going through budgets and dealing with controversial issues. Why really take this on at this point where you're kind of light at the end of the tunnel?
I'm not that kind of personality. You could ask anyone in my house, they will tell you I don't relax well. I like to be busy. I already see that happening in my younger daughter. She's the same way. She's overcommitted. I like challenging tasks. I like using my brain. I like educating myself about new things. And I'm going to be staying up late anyhow, as I am now, more and more, waiting for her to come home, so I might as well have something useful to do with my time.
Would you like to?
Sure. Thank you so much, Aileen, and we're delighted that you applied. Question for you on leadership styles. You describe or give examples of your leadership and decision-making styles when working in a group situation.
Particularly in the PTO situation, I've had to, I am sure there are people that are not a fan of my leadership style. I'm not necessarily a politician. Sometimes I perhaps may seem a bit abrupt. That is probably more a fact that my training tends to be litigation and arguing in court. I know I have sometimes been accused of being too contentious in my presentation, and I do try to not come across that way because I know that can happen. But I've had to delegate tasks, I've had to recruit committee people, I've had to make cold calls and beg people to come and help me, and then bring them together on a committee to do various things at the high school. I also have been very involved in the Plymouth County 4-H program and was just named by the Plymouth County Commissioners to to the Board of Trustees for that, and there's a lot of leadership there as far as recruiting new people and getting committees to work on various projects for 4-H. So I think the only negative I would say about myself is having to be careful not to become too contentious if I'm starting to lose my patience with things.
Thank you.
Great. Feel free to.
Okay, you want to go ahead?
No.
So, Aileen, I noticed in your cover letter, you talked about seeing this as a kind of a golden opportunity to get a taste of what it would be like before having to mount a campaign. So let me get could you give me an idea as to what would be a good taste and lead you to continue on versus what might not be such a good taste and might convince you that you wouldn't want to do this, continue on?
Well, I've never sat on a committee that would be tasked with such a huge undertaking as this. I realize that it would be very time-consuming. I also realize that there are times where it could make you unpopular with other citizens of the town of Hingham. That piece of it would be a little bit new to me. The things that I've done in the past haven't required this level of time commitment, and certainly haven't put me in the public spotlight like this would. And I don't know whether I would like being in the public spotlight, because I've never been there before on the level that this would be. And for me, that's the biggest thing as far as that concept of mounting a campaign and putting myself out there in the public like it would be necessary to do. So this avoids the intensity of the focus of a campaign, but still gets me out there in the public spotlight a little bit and gives me a sense of whether that's something I'm comfortable with. Paul?
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Some of the best board members are those that are committed to consensus. Care to comment?
I would actually disagree. That you committed to consensus. Well, no, I take that back. But working to consensus, not committed to consensus where you would just give in and roll over so that there would be consensus. Consensus can be a very difficult thing to achieve. Let me assure you, negotiating divorce agreements is a very clear example of that, and most divorces do settle, so you do reach consensus. It's a fine line between giving in to your principles and what you think is right and achieving consensus so that the job can get done when it needs to get done. So I think that's the hardest question so far.
Thank you.
Eileen, good evening, welcome, and thank you for applying. The question that I was going to ask you've already answered, and that is the greatest challenge for you. So I'm just going to simply say thank you.
Okay.
Andy?
Aileen, thank you for applying. I think it's wonderful to have such a qualified person, and also your opening statement was very, very good. So, communication. Obviously, that's always a challenge. How do you view communication within the public school system? How would you possibly improve it? What are your thoughts on how we can possibly get the word out more about communications within HPS?
Well, one thing that I found this year that I thought was great is the new newsletter that Dr. Gallo has been sending out. I think that's new this year. I don't remember ever getting that before. I think that there definitely needs to be more communication. I know that there's been a lot of concern in the past that things were done secretly or behind closed doors. I mentioned to a friend that I was applying for this and got a whole list of things that he thinks is wrong with the school committee and the school department in the town of Hingham. I think part of it is just being part of the community, being out there. I mean, if you're on this committee, there are 7 members on it. They're out in the public. There's always an opportunity to engage in conversation with people. I would welcome people coming up to me and wanting to talk about what was going on with the Hingham schools. As far as other ways to communicate, I think it's all got to be done really by sending out emails, maybe even more than is going now with news updates. Maybe the school committee even needs to be sending something out through the school system to parents, because I think that's how people communicate now. It's electronically. And I think parents do, at least I do, read those emails when they come. And I don't see why the school committee couldn't be like Dot Gallo and send out, maybe if it was only a quarterly email blast through the different schools about what's going on as far as the school committee views things.
Thank you. Liza?
Great, thank you for your ideas. So you've spoken about some of the challenges that you see the schools facing. What do you perceive as a few of the strengths, and how could we move forward on those strengths in our district?
I think one of the clear strengths is the quality of education in the town of Hingham. I think there is still a perception, and this comes from my PTO background, there's a huge perception in the schools that kids aren't getting into the top colleges, that despite the level of education that we provide here, that the kids graduating from Hingham High School just aren't getting into those top schools. And I think that's primarily just because it's become so much more competitive, and so many of those top schools are here in the state of Massachusetts or New England, which just by that very nature makes it more competitive. I think that there needs to be some communication, some more education of parents regarding the issues of the fact that it's not the lack of the quality of education that is resulting in kids. Because I've even heard younger parents talk about the fact that, why don't the Hingham kids get into the top schools? It's a big topic that parents talk about a lot. I hear it all the time. So I think that that's, the strength is that the education is excellent, but the weakness is we need to communicate better that doesn't always translate into Harvard.
Thank you, and thank you for applying. Choose answers.
Okay. I think so. Anything
That's
else
good.
from anybody?
That was a lot.
It's
A
great.
lot of information,
Thank
Aileen.
you. It's great.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank
for
you.
that.
Thank you. Can I ask when you intend to be making your decision by?
Maybe tonight.
Maybe tonight.
Okay. Thank you
Depends.
very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome. Hi. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And could you take a little bit of time and tell us about yourself and why you applied?
Absolutely. Yeah, so my name is Christopher Andruskevich. I'm a proud parent of 4 wonderful children, and I was born and raised in Boston's inner city. My wife and I chose to live in Hingham based on the high quality of life that the community affords. But more importantly, we chose Hingham based on its leadership and its high-performance school system. And I think a lot of parents would agree to that. We chose Hingham because it provides a very challenging and very comprehensive educational programs in a safe and a supportive environment, enabling all students to develop the knowledge and skills necessary for success as local and global citizens. And I'm seeking consideration for the purpose of enhancing student educational lives because I believe in the importance of quality public education. And I have a vested interest in seeing Hingham schools be the best. We're living in a very different world today. I'm an IT professional with over 15+ years, 14 of those with Verizon, and I just accepted a very exciting new job at a company called ThingWorks, which is going to really change people's lives in very different ways. We're going to see new ways that devices, people, animals will communicate with us, making and enriching our lives. And I'm very excited to be part of that opportunity. And then I would like to share that background and that knowledge with my community so that they can be in the forefront and be leaders in that space today. So, thank you.
Great. Thanks very much for joining us. Can you talk just a little bit about your familiarity with some current issues that we're dealing with, Common Core curriculum standards, the MCAS testing versus the PARCC assessments, state and federal mandates, and how technology plays a role in learning?
Great question, and it is very challenging. I've been involved with public education since 1996. Working at Verizon. I worked in government and municipal accounts, but also I volunteered a lot. I was involved with Net Day, which was the first really public awareness of how the internet's going to change our lives, and volunteered in organizing and then actually wiring schools for free. So in terms of the core curriculum, MCAS, PARCC, we have other initiatives such as STEM that it's widely being looked at and considered. How do we integrate that? How do we, as a community, take advantage of some opportunities that can leverage and enhance quality education in our community? But I'm very aware of all those programs. I don't know how much in depth and in length we want to go into that, but those are very common. I have a core understanding of those testing and the requirements there. I don't know how much more detail you want to go into that.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll ask. Thank you very much for applying. What do you perceive to be some of the issues and challenges that will face the school committee over the next few years, especially in the coming school year?
Well, I look at them as being more as opportunities and collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more of a collaboration with the community, teachers, parents, the administration, and how we look at problems and try to solve them as a group, as a community. I'm very big into the community theme. I'm a believer in lifelong learning and all the programs that lifelong learning can bring and the advantages of that, and how do we integrate technology into our strategy, into our planning for education, not just for today, but also into the future, and preparing our students for the jobs of the future. So I look at not so much as challenges, but opportunities to have discussions and collaborating with all the stakeholders.
Mm-hmm.
And then where do we find commonality, and then take advantage of that commonality.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for stepping forward, Mr. Andrew Skevich.
Excellent, thank you.
We're asking similar themed questions to all the folks who are stepping forward, and mine is, do you see yourself as a consensus builder? And if so, could you give us an illustration of that in your professional life, or even your personal life?
Great question. I'm a consensus builder almost every day. As a parent with 4 children in the house, I am a late bloomer, so I feel that brings a lot of experience and maybe some expertise. But consensus building is important, because at the end of the day, we all want to achieve something that's important to us. We want to seek that fulfillment, the desire to learn and to understand, and I see that almost every day. In my work, I'm collaborating all the time. I made a mistake. I was on a very long technology call with a billion-dollar company, and then I decided to play touch football with my children because I knew that would make them happy, because I would not be reading the 2 of them tonight. But I obviously had to work an arrangement with them to make them happy and to see, and we achieved the same goal at the end of the day, which was they're happy. I was able to get my checklist done for the day, and found that to be very successful.
Thank you.
Kind of a 2-part question for you. I'm so happy to hear about your interest in community and participation, and I know Verizon has been at the forefront, even when it was its many other names,
Yes.
of putting its people in the community. Can you tell us, what committees are you involved in now, especially with your love for education? What committees do you serve on?
That's another good question. Today, because I'm very busy with 4 children, I am not involved in any educational opportunities, just because of a conflict of interest. Well, at Verizon, I am no longer at Verizon. But I was heavily involved in the Verizon Foundation, which does give out a tremendous amount of money for educational initiatives. But there are hundreds of companies with hundreds of millions of dollars with these types of programs that are looking to, and basically following the STEM curriculum in terms of science, technology, engineering, and math. And I think that STEM might actually convert to STEAM. They're going to add A for arts, because arts is very important in our community. It's very important in children's lives. And it's also a digital format today. So what I see happening is myself getting more involved as my children. I'm still changing diapers. With children, I have a commitment to my family first. But in terms of other volunteers, I'm a green team member at Verizon. I'm very big into sustainability. Sustainability is all about our environment and the world that we live in and the world we're going to leave behind for our children. So I did volunteer a lot in sustainable or green initiatives while at Verizon. Prior to that, I had mentioned I was involved in Net Day. I was also a initial board member for an organization called Gang Peace because of my inner city background growing up in the inner city. Got involved with an organization that helped kids stay out of trouble. And we developed technology programs that worked with children, trying to introduce them to technology so that they would focus on enriching and enhancing their lives versus getting into trouble. So that's something I was intimately involved with for many years.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I noted, and you said again today, that you are a proud parent of 4 children, probably also a busy parent of 4 children.
Yes, sir.
So, and you mentioned just now that you've taken on a new job responsibility. So I'm wondering if given the time commitments that are required on the school committee, we meet basically 2 nights, every other week in the evenings. We also have subcommittee meetings, depending what you're involved in. Some of those being, we try to do during the day, just so people have some evenings free. Would you have any concerns about being able to put in that type of commitment, time-wise?
Yeah, I understand your concerns and maybe the concerns of the committee. I'm joining a $2 billion organization that's global. They have a number of, they encourage, just like Verizon did, my new company encourages community involvement. They want to see us involved in our community, enhancing or enriching that community in some form. So I see that as actually being a benefit for me in my new job, to report back up into our organization and to maybe even leverage some programs that might be beneficial to the community. So I don't see that as being a conflict today. But thank you.
Ed?
Good evening, welcome, and thank you for applying. Tell us about your level of familiarity with the role and responsibilities of a school committee member, and what particular aspects of the role, as you understand it, will be the greatest challenge for you.
I know nothing, and that might be good, or it could be bad, but I know nothing. I'm typically a quick study. I deal with technologies that's changing and evolving rapidly. I'm in an industry where the speed and the rapid deployment and development of the technology is constantly changing every 2 months. If you look at the communication tools that you use today, it's outdated almost 6 months later. But to answer your question, I'm a quick study. I've been doing this for well over a decade. And I would find that, I would hope that the other members of the committee would guide me in the right direction and know where my areas of strengths are and where my areas of weaknesses are. I'm not perfect. I plan to learn from everyone. I don't know it all. I'm not the smartest person in the room. I don't want to be. But I would rely on the collective wisdom.
Thank you.
Andy?
Chris, thank you very much for applying. Wonderful CV. Love your enthusiasm. I do have 4 children as well, and since I run the Flag Football League, I'm glad to see your kids were playing touch football earlier tonight. My question is communication. What are some of your thoughts about ways to share information and enhance awareness of what's happening in the school system, schools and school system?
I could take an hour and get up with PowerPoints and love to show you of the possibilities. I think we're at a point in time, I call it a tipping point, where education and we can accelerate and enhance. I'm big into what we take the best of what we have and look at continually optimizing. And how does technology play in that optimization is critical. Technology should not drive a strategy. It should not drive education. It should just enhance it. But what technology can do is make everyone more collaborative, and then that exchange of information, I think, will accelerate learning, will accelerate, I think, an experience that we all wanted for our children, but also interaction among ourselves, between parents and teachers and the administration with the community. I see that as being, again, a more collaborative, connected opportunity for us to take advantage of. I have a tremendous amount of thoughts in that area, and more than happy to share that at a later time if appropriate.
Thank you again, Chris. What do you perceive as some of the strengths of the Hingham Public Schools themselves? And I noticed from your resume that you provided, you have a child that is in special ed, and maybe some of the strengths of the special ed program too is specific. How do you perceive us?
Special education is always a moving target. I don't think there's a secret sauce. I don't think there's one approach. I think we're living in a time where a lot of students have special needs and with varying degrees. I think the focus being an understanding of our special needs within our community and how we address it, maybe with technology, maybe with other types of approaches to learning, but I think it should be discussed and seeing how we could put together programs to enhance what we have, because we do a lot of great things in that area. How can we enhance that area so that we can exceed, maybe get better results than what we might have anticipated? I think the opportunities are limitless. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, if we can create the curiosity within our children, no matter if they're exceptional to the ones that do need that special help, if we can foster that creativity and that curiosity, I think we'll do fine.
Great, thank you.
Does anybody have
Anything
any
else?
follow-ups or anything else?
Thank you so much, Chris.
Oh, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us. Thank you for applying for the vacancy on the school committee.
Thank you.
And why don't we start off by, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you applied for the position?
Okay, I have a prepared statement here. My name is Andy Ayer, and I live at 41 Hemlock Road in Hingham. My wife, Michelle, and I are parents of currently a sophomore and an 8th grader in Hingham Public Schools. And as I noted in the information I provided in advance, I'm a supporter of Hingham community and the activities of my children, both inside and outside of the school system. My activities range from the arts, including photography, to Hingham Sports Partnership, to creating the Hingham Sports website. Becoming involved with Hingham School Committee is a natural progression to community service. I was drawn to applying to the position based on the initiatives the town and the school committee have taken. We are fortunate to live in a community where we have the resources to fund a new middle school. The building looks awesome. By the way, I can't wait to see it. And the technology is inspiring. Being kind of a tech geek myself, I welcome the opportunity to complement the fine work done to date. I have a unique point of view, as I would with technology, both inside and outside, being from both the private and public sector. My experience dealing with other geeks and kind of tech avoiders would only complement the accomplishments. And I'd be a resource to all. Additionally, I'm confident my knowledge will only be beneficial when we transition from MCAS to PARC. And the other thing is too, prior being in the technology field, I worked with special needs, and I have kind of a firsthand experience of individual assessment plans. And, like everyone else who's applied for the position, I'm appreciative for everything Hingham has to offer, and since I have the skills, I would complement our current path.
Well, thank you. And we have a series of questions that we're asking, similar questions to all the applicants.
Mm-hmm.
So with that,
Sure. Andy, thank you very much for applying. So you mentioned an issue that is on our horizon, and that's the MCAS park transition. I was wondering What do you perceive to be some of the other issues and challenges that face the school committee over the next few years, particularly the upcoming year?
Basically, in regards to technology, I think it's greatly changing every single day. Even yesterday, I don't know if any of you guys caught it. I mean, I kind of watch all this stuff all the time, but, the Apple keynote for developer conference, and there's some major new initiatives coming out that's going to kind of change the landscape pretty rapidly within the next year or so.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Ayer. My name is Paul Healy. My question to you, sir, is do you see yourself as a consensus builder? And if so, could you give us some illustrations, either professionally or personally, where that came?
Yeah, I think probably one of the biggest consensus buildings I've ever done was basically, I am the creator of HinghamSports.com. And one of the things that I had to do was basically go to all the different youth organizations and kind of sell the idea of having a unified platform to basically help parents. One of the reasons why I did that was, at the time, I sat on the board for Hingham Youth Football. And, being a parent, doing registration, listening to other parents, kind of bemoan, like, oh, I never know when registration's coming up and everything. I never know, how much it costs or any of the communication is lacking. I kind of just took it upon myself to say, well, why not create something that everyone can kind of benefit from? And having all the sites kind of work together to basically communicate different news from each of the youth groups.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Andy, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
So you work full-time?
Mm-hmm.
I know your wife, Michelle, is involved with the PTO.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 2 kids in school.
Yep.
Why would you want to take on this role? I'll be honest with you, it's a time-consuming role.
Mm-hmm.
It's very rewarding for those of us who are honored to serve. But at this point in your life, why would you want to take that on?
Like I said before, I think it's just kind of a natural progression. Like I always get to a point in my career, like where I am now, is that I always have kind of an end game in place in regards to the way I do things. And kind of like, HinghamSports.com is one example, where I built it and then left it, and just kind of gave it back. This is kind of like, hey, this is a new avenue to kind of give my skill set to the community.
Thank you.
Andy, thank you so much. And can you give us examples of your leadership style and how, specific examples in a group setting, how you would go about working in a group setting?
It's actually kind of interesting because, coming from the financial side in regards to technology and everything, one of the ways I kind of implement change is, for the better, from a technology standpoint, is to kind of do all the resources to people who are accepting of the ideas. The people who are against the ideas, you kind of let them hang out a little bit. When they see the benefits of the other group happening, then that's when they join in. You don't try to force feed someone an idea.
Thank you.
So thanks again for applying, and it sounds like you've done made a lot of positive contributions to the town already. Clearly, your background in technology is well aligned with one of the major thrusts that we have going on, and everybody knows on the school committee, I've been a big supporter of pushing us to move forward with that plan, which we are. But beyond that, what would you see as your particular strengths that you would, bring to the school committee?
Communication. Kind of a big avenue for me, like I said before, with HinghamSports.com is that communication point. One of the things I find is, I do watch the town meetings occasionally. I'm not going to say I watch it every single time, yeah, but I do watch it. But it's always kind of like stumble upon it, and it'd be good to find out when things are happening. And I know from my own experience is people have get their information different ways. One of those things is, whether it's using social, whether it's, using kind of traditional media, whether it's, using HCAM, using, the Hingham Journal, and using even like non-traditional stuff, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, for example. Believe it or not, I get a lot of stuff from Instagram. People just post stories up and you link off.
Mr.
Good
Ed?
evening, welcome. Thank you for applying.
You're welcome.
Tell us about your level of familiarity with the role and responsibilities of a school committee member, and what particular aspects of the role, if any, as you understand it, would pose the greatest challenge to you.
Well, I kind of see the school committee as almost like the board of directors, and Doc Gallo's the CEO. We're responsible for, hiring the superintendent, but then approving the additional roles under Dot. Probably the biggest challenge is, for me anyways, kind of learning everything right off the top. I'm not, privy to everything.
Learning curve, you're right.
Yeah, learning curve.
Andy, thank you very much for applying. Wonderful background. You touched on this a little bit on my question, but communication, both with parents and the community at large, is a huge responsibility for school administration and the school committee. What are some of your thoughts about ways to share information and enhance awareness of what is happening in the schools?
First off, it basically, each of the schools has their own newsletters. You get it with the individual PTOs, and you communicate through the newsletters. Secondly, it would be through the social sites. Every group, believe it or not, within the elementary schools and the high schools and even middle schools, they all have Facebook pages. They all have little Twitter sites and everything, communicating through that, following them. And I know this is going to sound wrong, but for the older folks, using the Hingham Journal, that you kind of still rely on that traditional media and HCAM.
Thank you for joining us. You have an 8th grader and a sophomore, you said. What do you perceive as the strengths of the Hingham schools that your children benefit from, you benefit from as a parent?
Definitely the education. I've only lived in Hingham for 10 years. I moved to Hingham from Quincy, and one of the reasons why we moved from Quincy at that time, because my oldest was going to go into 1st grade, and he was currently at Catholic school, and at the time we were like, okay, is he going to continue in Catholic school, or is he going to go to public school? And when we decided he was going to go to public school, we kind of, me growing up in Quincy, going through the school system, it was okay, but we wanted something better for our kids, and we started looking at the other towns and everything. We decided that Hingham was the better school system. So we opted for the smaller house in Hingham than in the bigger house in Braintree.
All right, Andy, I'll ask one other question. You do an awful lot of good work. What committees are you part of now? And are you part of any of the committees or subcommittees within the school system itself?
Other being than what my wife tells me to do while she's in the PTO doing.
Good answer, Andy. Especially if your wife is watching.
Right. Well, she's in California right now, but even this past weekend.
Good evening, Mrs. Ayer.
Right.
Hi, Mrs. Ayer.
But yeah, even this past weekend, I had to do cleanup with her for the senior night at the high school, and I had worked to 2 in the morning and shooting a prom for Milton Academy, and then I had to get up at 6 o'clock to make sure I was at the high school. But yes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay,
All right,
thank
thanks,
you.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Dyke, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you also for applying. And why don't you make yourself at home and spend a few minutes telling us a little bit about yourself and why you applied for this opening.
Okay. Be glad to do that. I'm Dyke Crane. I'm a resident of Hingham for 2 3/4 years now, living up at Linden Pond. I come before you tonight as an experienced school committee member, having served on the school committee in the town of Natick for 18 years. You know, of those 18, 5 years I was chairperson 5 different times. I have a long history of civic involvement, being involved in civic activities back in Natick for close to 50 years, 40 years as a representative town meeting member, and I have considerable volunteer experience in the United Methodist Church at various levels, including treasurer and business manager of a regional conference of the Methodist Church for 27.5 years. I've continued my civic involvement since I've came to Hingham in September of 2011 by participating in town meeting, and as Mr. Healy knows and Ms. Lowther know, on the electronic voting study committee, and I also serve as an election worker for the town clerk. Why have I submitted my name for this vacancy? Well, during my tenure as a school committee member, I found it very difficult when we had to appoint an interim person to a committee, and the person who was appointed did not have any experience whatsoever. It caused us to expend an inordinate amount of time regrouping, reorienting, and it just made the meetings longer and longer. And therefore, having a great deal of experience as a school committee member, I felt it was important to put my name forward to give you that option, if you so desire. I believe I can bring a wealth of experience for a short-term opening. I have an open mind to the school committee issues that they'll be considering. I have no allegiance to any constituency in this town, either within the school department or with outside the school department. As a newer resident, I feel I can bring an outside point of view to the committee, and as I understand it, most of you on the committee have less than 5 years of service to the town as a school committee member. My goal in volunteering is to help provide the best possible education for the students in Hingham within the financial means that the community has available. I do not plan to be a candidate for this open seat come the elections in May of 15. I feel that stepping in on a short-term basis and doing a credible job on a short-term basis would be a great help, and having served on a committee as long as that, I don't think I want to re-up for 3 years or 4 years or anything like that. I will spend considerable time becoming aware of the issues before the next meeting, and the summer months will provide an opportunity to become fully acquainted with the educational opportunities and system here in town, to learn of areas of concern, become acquainted with you committee members, with the administration and the budget. I will not be a caretaker of the seat. I'll be actively involved. I can assure you of that. I understand that all the labor contracts for the school department are currently up for renegotiation. I can offer you my experience serving on many negotiating subcommittees over the course of the 18 years there. I have also considerable experience in all aspects of the school budgeting and finance. I commend the school committee for bringing forward Article 31 in the town for passing that to petition the legislature for the reserve fund for special education expenses. I think if that goes through, it'll be a help in taking the unknown of special ed tuitions and keeping that volatile area a little bit under control. I've had experience with increasing enrollments, decreasing school enrollments, redistricting, and I don't say this with pleasure, but in the time I was on the school committee, we closed 7 schools in Natick. But then again, we opened 2 newer and bigger and better schools. And I also have to say that unfortunately I was there when Proposition 2.5 took effect. And it was not pleasant times, and the ramifications of it really did a number on the schools and the town. And we're still feeling the effects of that. Current things that are going on in education, the Reform Act, the emphasis on the mass CAS tests, now the movement to the PARC test, which I understand you're doing a trial in a couple of classes or grades here, and are all things that I've tried to keep a active mind open to. Curriculum review, policy revisions of the committee are all things we spent time on, as any school committee does from time to time. I served on the middle school building committee in Natick, the Wilson Middle School, and I look forward to seeing your new school here and the opening of that. It's very coincidental that the architect, AI3, who did your school, also did ours before he got into the model school program. And I've served 3 years on the an elementary school council as a citizen representative after I was off of the school committee. And it takes time to be a successful school committee member, and I have the time to devote to it, and I appreciate the time that both of your boards are giving to this appointment, and I thank you for having me in tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crane. You may have answered all of our questions.
Okay, all right, bye.
Carol, do you want to start?
Well, certainly you answered the question that I was going to ask, so I'm going to skip to another question. Change is certainly a part of our reality day to day, but sometimes it's difficult or intimidating for some of the individuals or our constituents. What are some of the ways that you could suggest as fostering a welcoming climate for acceptance of new ideas and protocols?
We, in the past, have made a considerable effort to take the time to fully explain and vent proposals that we were coming forward with whatever the constituency was. It's never easy, but you just have to work at it and do the best you can. Sometimes you succeed and sometimes you don't. And,
Thank you.
sorry, I can't be more specific.
No, that's great, thank you.
Mr. Crane, thank you once again for stepping forward, and my compliments to your considerable experience, both in the community of Natick as well as Hingham.
Thank you.
I would like to get a sense from you, based on your time sitting on the various committees and boards that you cited, as to your views on the importance of consensus.
We made a very concerted effort with consensus in the committee over the period of time. We were very fortunate to work together over the years, and We may have had our disagreements in the meetings, but when we walked out of the door of that room, we were friends, and we didn't let any disagreements there carry over. Getting the consensus of various boards within the town on things that you're working on, finances, with the selectmen on budgeting and negotiations and things like that. And the advisory committee, we worked very hard at doing those things.
Thank you.
You mentioned the MCAS test. You mentioned transition to park briefly. This is an exciting time for Hingham and for education in the public schools in general, but it's also a challenging time. We face decisions about standardized testing. We face decisions about implementing technology, new technology. What do you feel the most important aspect of new technology is in terms of application to public schools? What do you think we should be pursuing technologically?
I think you should be pursuing equipping all the students in town with computers. I understand from an advisory committee meeting that the first class going into the middle school is going to get computers, and I would fully support that and support it all the way along coming up to high school. And if you can do it any faster than one grade at a time, I think it should be done. I'm not technically oriented on the exact type of computer that should be used in the schools. I understand this cloud thing is coming along, and I don't know anything about that. But in the high school now, in Natick, they were fully computerized. Each student has a school-owned computer that they get each year, and turn it in come June. And the teachers are using that kind of technology in the classroom as they teach their classes, so I fully support that. And I think that on this PAC test, before that is adopted, the students need to be proficient at using the instruments, devices, or whatever they may be that you adopt. I just don't think you can all of a sudden, because the state's come out with that program this year that they're using computers on. It'd be a disaster if the students aren't literate and capable of using the equipment.
Thank you.
Thank you for applying again, and thank you for your work on the electronic voting committee. You actually have more experience with electronic voting than I think Eva Marks is about equal with you, but your contribution there is tremendous, and sometime we'll actually be doing that, I hope. Can you give us some examples of your leadership and decision-making style when working in a group environment?
I worked very closely with the superintendent on recommendations that were to come before the committee. I tried to build consensus in the meetings, and I was able to recognize when we weren't getting that way and try to bring in the necessary people or persons to help us develop whatever the proper answer might have been on various things. I spent time being involved with the school that would be affected by any particular issue that would be coming before the committee, and tried to bring the leadership of that school and the parents, if it was necessary, into whatever decisions were being made. And it was just trying to work with people all around. It's not it's not a case of just trying to push one thing through. It was trying to work it so that everybody was agreed on the matter.
Thank you. Dennis?
So, Diet, I want to also thank you for your willingness to offer what is obviously a large reservoir of experience dealing with the things that we deal with regularly in the school committee. In that regard, you mentioned the idea of being kind of a fresh set of eyes coming in from Natick into Hingham relatively recently. So I'd like to ask you any observations that you might have as to areas in Hingham where you see we might be able to do things better, or areas that perhaps we can already quite strong in that we might be able to augment.
I really haven't had time to delve deeply into the school committee issues because when I got here, my wife was ill, and she has subsequently passed, so now I have the time to start getting in there. But one of the things that concerns me greatly is that you do not have full-day kindergarten in this town. And I am concerned about that, and I would hope that either you have been or you will start working on that issue, because I found it very very necessary because of the fact that you had some children going half-day and other kids going full-day to private schools, and then when they all came together in first grade, there were issues of the ones that have been to full-day private kindergarten being much further advanced than the ones in the just doing the half-day program. So I would hope that that could be worked out before long.
Thank you.
Di, good evening, welcome, thank you for applying. The question that I was assigned has been answered very well, so I'm going to simply ask you, your experience in Natick, what was the biggest accomplishment that you all did, and if you had to do it again, what would be a do-over?
Good question.
I think the biggest accomplishment was some of the administrators that we hired. We were very successful in our hires of central administration, and that was probably the key to our successful time in Natick. And then the fact that we were able to get a new middle school through and a new high school after I was off the committee, but we started on it way back then. Those were probably the most important things that we did. The other was, what was the worst?
Do-over.
Do-over? The early efforts we made at redistricting were a complete disaster, and by the time we got in it 2 or 3 times, we were very successful in involving the public and so on. At the beginning, we didn't get the public involved enough.
Thank you.
That's a good question.
I think actually this might play right into your last comment there. Thank you again for applying.
Yes.
Wonderful experience. Communication, both with parents and the community at large, is a huge responsibility for school administration and the school committee. What are some of your thoughts about ways to share information and enhance awareness of what is happening in the schools?
I think probably the most important way now is with technology. In recent years, several school systems that I know of are using a weekly release at the end of the week. I still subscribe to what is the Natick school system sends out, and now they are putting their agenda out online, and they're putting specific links that you can link onto to get information regarding a particular item. And I don't know how it's working, but from what I've been able to read and so on, or other things they put out, I think it's very helpful. One of the issues that they're currently dealing with, and they've just put a lot of material online, is the change in the start time of the high school and of the elementary and the middle schools. And they've just circulated a whole host of materials online, and anything that comes out of the high school now is online.
Thank you.
I'm going to switch my question a little bit. And as a resident of Linden Ponds, I'm very excited that that part of that neighborhood of our community is so actively interested in what we're doing. What are some of the education topics? Do you hear the residents of Linden Ponds talking about the Hingham Public Schools and what they think about what's happening, or are they more interested in their own activities?
I really don't hear much of anything up there about the schools. The main thing that you hear up there is a carryover from when they owned their own homes, about what the tax rate is doing, and how the town is spending its finances. Some of you may have been up there for candidate nights. I can't remember your name now, but Ed. Yeah.
It's okay as long as you voted for him.
Well, he was unopposed, wasn't he?
Yeah, you're right.
But, of course, with the 81% of the school budget going to payroll and labor expenses and benefits, we have to be careful in how we spend that 81%, and it's a concern to the people up there how the town is spending its money. Though you wouldn't know at a town meeting the way all the budgets went through.
Thank you very much. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
could just point out that at that candidates forum at Linden Ponds, Dyke did come over and spend time at my table, which was very appreciative, because he and I had a good, long, single conversation.
And Mr. Gannon's daughter is now working up there in the dining room. And I don't know exactly how many Hingham students there are that work up there, but
Quite a few.
looks like, I think
Yeah.
there are.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you all very much. And
Thank you.
Nice to meet you all.
And I saw Paul Gannon in the hallway.
Yes.
I look for a chair.
It's okay, I think he can sit down at the end. Hello, welcome, Mr. Gannon. Welcome, Carol Falvey.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for applying. And would you take a couple minutes to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, and why you applied?
Sure. My name's Carol Falvey. Sorry.
Well, it's not.
No, we have a Carol Falvey.
I'm the Carol with the Y.
We've got it all worked out.
Yeah. I live in Hingham Shipyard with my husband and 3 children. Both graduated from Hingham High School. All 3 of my children attended Hingham schools. 2 are in college and 1's still in high school now. I have a degree in economics, and I have an MBA with a concentration in marketing from RPI. Currently a trustee of Hingham Public Library, and I've been involved with the Hingham Public Schools for many years, and I'm sorry if this is stuff you already know. I started off involved at the PTO at Plymouth River School, moved up to Hingham Middle School, was very involved there, was president of the PTO there while my children were there, and then after that experience, I had 3 children in 3 different levels of schools here in Hingham, high school, middle school, and elementary school. So I wanted to get involved in a broader way and ran for school committee. I ran 2 successful campaigns for school committee, spent 6 years, served on several subcommittees, including capital planning, long-range planning, community service, policy. The last 3 years, I served as secretary, vice chair, and chair. Worked through several major issues with the town while I was doing all that. And I'm throwing my hat in the ring. I guess first and foremost, I missed working with everybody. I care about the children of Hingham and the staff and administration, and I care about the town, and I feel this is the best way I can serve the town. I feel I can jump right in. I have that 6 years of experience behind me. I understand the finances, I understand the issues the schools are facing, and I have experience working with various boards, appointed and elected, throughout the town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have some questions.
Okay. Hi, Carol. Welcome. Thank you for volunteering. What do you perceive to be some of the issues and challenges, which you mentioned, but maybe in a little bit more specificity, that will face the school committee over the next coming year, but particularly the year in front of us?
Probably, well, I think you always have issues with unfunded mandates. You're always facing those. One of the things that I've heard most around town, the concern about the park assessment, is one of the bigger issues I think we're facing this year in particular.
Great, thank you very much.
Hey, Carol. How you doing? This is my question to everybody. Can you give us a sense as to the value that you place on consensus building when you're working on an issue within a board or a committee?
Sure, I think, I can think of 3 big issues that I faced while I was on school committee, East School, middle school, and then the fields. And we placed a high value on working together as a team and collaborating with not only amongst ourselves as a school committee, but other boards within the town. It's something I highly value, and I believe I have the skills to help people work together as a team.
Great, thank you.
Hi, Carol.
Hey, Ray.
So you're almost an empty nester.
Yeah.
6 very distinguished years on the school committee. Why would you want to come back in?
I believe, and if I had another life to live, I probably should have been a teacher and I would have been an administrator eventually. My passion is education. And I spent a lot of the first 3 years I spent learning a lot about the schools and the children and the parents and the needs of the town and how do you balance everything. And I really missed it this year, and I still have a lot to give to this town, and I got involved with Hingham Public Library, and I love that, but the schools are my passion.
Thank you.
Carol, thank you so much. And yes, the library loves you, too. This is a great concern to them that you've applied. Can you give us some examples of your leadership and decision-making styles when working in a group situation?
Sure. Well, leadership, I value everybody's opinions. I listen to everybody's opinions. Respect the differences that we share, and I think that's what makes a good board even great, when you have different opinions and that you can discuss them openly and come to a conclusion. And I think everybody needs to step back occasionally. Remember, we're here to serve the public and not our own interests, or think we know what's right for the general public. We need to balance that with the needs of a wide variety of learners that we have here. And I think my leadership skills came through, probably most on the field project, when we were trying to present a balanced project to the town that met many concerns and needs of different constituencies.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Dennis?
So I'm supposed to ask about what special skills you bring and experience to the school committee, so I probably won't go there.
Okay.
I think that's pretty self-evident. But I thought it would be interesting, or it's interesting to me anyway, that several of the people have said they either see it as a short-term situation where they could bring something to this interim kind of appointment, and others have said they see it as something they would try out and hopefully move on forward. And so you kind of alluded to it in your opening statement, but I'm just curious, assuming that you were appointed, would it be your expectation to run for election in next April, or haven't you come to that conclusion yet?
I have not come to that conclusion yet.
Mhm.
I have not found the right place for me in town yet. I want a little bit more than library. Don't know if the schools can use me best, but I do believe in, doing my best for the town of Hingham. It did a lot for me growing up here, and I'm not so sure what my plans would be.
Thank you.
I do feel, that's an interesting question. I do feel people should run for this spot. I've run twice for school committee, and when you do that, you have to share your thoughts and your goals with everybody, and then the town decides if you fit. And I feel like I've done that twice, and people know who I am and how I act, and what to expect of me. So I can kind of jump in and hit the ground running.
Carol.
Dr. Ed?
Good evening, welcome, and thank you for applying. I'm going to divert from my question as well, which doesn't make any sense. Carol's helping with a small group of us at committee as we plan the celebration of our new fields. My question is, if you're chosen, what subcommittees would you request?
Well, let's see. Probably long-range planning. I love that one. Community service. Do I have to request 2 or 3? I forget.
2, 3.
4, 5, 6, whatever.
Where do you need help?
You can have them all, I think, is where he's getting.
Do you need help somewhere? Policy.
Good to see you, thank you.
Thank you.
Carol, welcome back.
Hi, Andy.
Thank you very much for wanting to go back into this. So, actually, I'm very intrigued on my prepared question, which I'm really sort of curious of your response, being now a year removed. Communication, both with parents and the community at large, is a huge responsibility for the school administration and the school committee. What are some of your thoughts about ways to share information and enhance awareness of what is happening in the schools?
Well, we got to always rely on that Hingham Journal. That seems to be our great source of communication. Still, at this point, it's a great publication, and they're at every sporting event, every play, every music ensemble that we have. So, again, keeping in touch and keeping the journal aware, and it would be great if we could get more parents at school committee meetings. I know I attended several myself this year, and as usual, there are not too many people out in the audience. So I think, having the school committee meetings televised, which is something that we did a couple years ago, has really helped. The listservs that the principals have, we continue to communicate through that, and just do our best to get whatever messages we need out.
Okay. Hi, Carol. I think I'm in your previous seat, so I have a new perspective of where we're going. So I wanted to ask you about a question of new initiatives that we're undertaking and about technology. I'm going to divert from my question. So technology is a big initiative for the schools and plays a critical role in all of our daily lives. What are your thoughts on how students should and can use technology for learning?
Well, I think this year, with the new middle school, aren't you introducing not iPads, but something similar?
Chromebooks.
Yeah, Chromebooks.
Chromebooks. So, I think, based on the way just society in general is going, we should try to incorporate as much technology as we can into our techniques, our teaching techniques, even communicating amongst staff and with each other. Again, that has to be balanced with what budget do we have and how can we work within the budget that we're given. But it's something that you don't want to always be first out on something because then it becomes obsolete. It's kind of nice to come in second, and probably why we're going Chromebooks instead of iPads when so many schools went iPads. Does that answer your question, Liza? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you want this one?
We'll switch for a second. Welcome again. Nice to see you. Just a quick question, and it was a pleasure working with you, obviously, last year when I was new on the school committee, so I know that you're experienced, and I just was curious as to what strengths do you think you'll bring to this group, in terms of the dynamics.
The dynamics have been tough from what I've seen the last few meetings I've been to. I think I'm a team player, a communicator, I'm a collaborative, and I respect other people's opinions. And I think as long as you have respect and communication, and we remember who we're here to serve, and that's what we're doing, we're serving as public servants, that we can accomplish great things. And that's what I would bring to this board.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Anybody have any other questions for Carol? Thank you.
Thanks very much,
Carol.
Kevin.
Sure.
Now, we will,
That timing.
it's perfect timing. We will take a few minutes, and then we'll start off with our agenda, and then we'll reconvene.
Sounds great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you. Questions from the public while we're getting situated? Do we have any questions from the public that are not on the agenda? No? Okay. Then when Ted gets the chairs situated, our weekly guests, we will do the grant of location, and if Dennis, and is it Harry? The two of you? I didn't know who was coming, but it's usually you two.
Good evening.
Good evening. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Nice to see everyone. My name is Dennis Regan, and I'm the permit representative from National Grid. And tonight, National Grid respectfully requests your consent to install and maintain approximately 935 feet, more or less, of 2-inch gas main in Irving Street, Hingham. From the existing 4-inch gas main in Levitt Street northerly to the end of the main at house number 9, all of which to replace and abandon the existing 2-inch gas main in Irving Street.
Paul.
Question for Harry. Is Irving Street on the repaving list?
No, it isn't.
Getting a little long in the tooth up there, isn't it?
I was going to say,
Okay.
one of many, Paul.
All right.
Where is it on the, that is a good question. Do you know where it is on the extended schedule?
Currently, it's not on the 5-year plan.
We can get you the exact year it is. I know Roger has it in the back years, but I'll have it for board next meeting. Yeah, that's it, thanks.
Paul?
It's nice to see you again, Eric, if you guys have been here the last few meetings. Is there any rhyme or reason in terms of when these pipes get replaced? I mean, in terms of...
They keep a leak history, and we try to get in as soon as possible to the ones that need to be replaced.
So, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what we're...
So it's not necessarily the age, it's the condition?
It's the leak history, yes.
And do you keep that history at your offices?
I don't keep that history. The engineering department will keep that history.
Is that something we keep?
Yes, we have a record of every permit that's pulled for every street opening. And in those permits, we have a identification, whether it's a leak or new service, so on and so forth. At times, if I know we have a road come up for repaving, and it's not on the replacement schedule, I'll look back and do the leak history and age research to make sure that, or suggest to the gas company, we encourage them strongly to replace that main. And over the last several years, I'd say go back 4 or 5 years, after several meetings with the gas company, they've been very cooperative in trying to replace age and leaking gas mains that are on the roads that we have in the 5-year plan to get them replaced. That plays a huge impact on the order of roads we do on the 5-year plan, is the utility, underground utilities, whether it's sewer that needs an upgrade or gas and so forth.
So, following up on Paul's question, when a customer reports a gas leak, who do they call? Do they call?
They call the gas company.
The gas company. So we don't necessarily have the total leak history?
Well,
Or?
if the leak is, there's leaks are graded, there's 3 different grades for leaks. Grade 1 leaks are worked immediately. Grade 2 leaks have to be worked in a certain amount of time, and grade 3 leaks are monitored on a daily basis. So we would be digging on every grade 1 leak.
Those are like the ones you want to fix before they go boom?
No, not necessarily.
No?
The grade 1, 2, and 3, the rating system for that is a distance of a dwelling in relationship to the leak. And I believe a grade 1 leak is within 50 feet, and if I'm misspoken, Dennis, you may surely correct me. I am not a gas expert, although I am becoming one after so many years working with a gas company. And your answer to we may not necessarily know about a leak. If they have an active leak during the hours of Monday through Friday from 7 to 4, we get a call in most cases that they're on their way to open up a street and a permit follows. If it's on a weekend, they'll call me, leave a message on my phone, or we'll have a notification early in the week notifying me where the leak was, and then a permit would follow.
Because I know dispatch gets calls because you'll hear somebody being dispatched for an odor of gas. But then I guess that gets followed up probably by the gas company.
There'll always be a permit, but on an emergency, we're going to dig and then do the permit, emergency permit.
No, nothing
This one
further,
okay?
thank you.
Got one other question.
Okay, be my guest.
Dennis, one other question. In terms of the pipes, is there a outside date as to where it's been in the ground for X amount of years that it's a priority to be replaced? I mean...
It's strictly the leak history. As far as
You've given us, though, a 5-year plan for
replacement
that you...
I can probably get something, but I it'll be taking me a bit to get that. I'm not sure if the 5-year plan. I don't think I did.
Well, I don't think we're really asking you to do any, it's just an
Just wanna know if it
understanding of how
exists.
this happens.
No, well, I think every year there's so much money put in budgets to relay mains, and then we strictly look for the ones that we want to replace that are causing the most, or are the most at risk.
Okay, do we have any questions from the audience? Come up and introduce yourself and ask your question. No,
No, we
come
need
up
to have
here.
you at the mic so they can hear
We want
you
the
on-
people at home to see you.
I'm Dave Powers, 30 Levitt Street. My wife and I live in a house that is at the corner of Irving Street. And the reason that we're here, we're obviously in favor of replacing the 2-inch main that's 87 years old down Irving Street. What we're concerned with, and I know my neighbor Jay is here for the same reason, we're concerned with the line that's 101 years old in front of our house that goes along Route 228. We bought our house in '98, and I would say maybe 5 years later, we noticed we have 2 big trees in the front of our house that we noticed were starting to look pretty weak, and they look really weak now. Also, there was a tree at the corner as you go down Irving Street from Main Street. On your right is our house. There was a tree on the corner that was town property between the sidewalk and the street that was dying, and it died. And we called the town. There was, I think that there was an odor of gas at some point, so we called the gas company. They came out and they said there was a low-grade leak, and I don't know whether it was grade 2 or grade 3, but they said it had 2 years, that it was a type of gas leak that they had to replace or had to fix or whatever within 2 years because it was a low-grade leak. We never saw any activity within the 2 years. I called later, and I'm sure it's on the record that I called, and they said, oh yeah, we took care of it, it's all done, and everything's fine. Well, since then, the town was kind enough to replace our dead tree with another tree, and that died. This isn't from lack of watering by myself. This isn't from lack of using a Ross root feeder to feed the town tree. It still died. Now, they said it was maybe due to the salt from the road. I don't know, all the other trees seem to grow. It died, the town was kind enough to replace it with another tree. And I'm using my Ross root feeder and my hose, and it doesn't look very healthy. Our big trees are continuing to die. I think you've got a problem with gas leak on that corner, and I know Jay's got issues, and I think that you need to address not just the 2-inch main, but the line that's 14 years older on Main Street. So that's my concern. And so that's why I wanted to come here and speak.
Thank you.
Wouldn't it be Levitt Street?
Jay, introduce yourself, please.
My name is Jay Perney.
Into the microphone.
My name is Jay Perney. I bought the property at 45 Irving Street, which is on the other side of David's house. And as soon as we moved in, we did a bunch of landscaping and put in a line of arborvitae trees and some other shrubs. And there was about a 20-foot, 30-foot circle where everything died. So we replaced everything, and it died again. And then we called in the landscapers, and they said they just couldn't explain it. They fertilized them, they watered them. So finally, David came over and mentioned that there was a gas leak, and I have some pictures here. It's pretty clear that...
Why don't you put it right there and we'll show them on TV.
All of the trees, except within this 20-foot circle, are healthy and are dying again.
Bob, can you, okay, thank you.
That's pretty much all. And I have nothing against putting the one down.
Okay, thank you. Is this a copy for us?
Yes.
Set down to Sharon for the record.
Okay. Dennis or Harry, can you respond to that?
I can move this information on to people that I work with. As of
Would you?
tonight, I can't answer your question tonight. I can ask the people I work with
Could you
tomorrow.
do that, and we'll put it on a follow-up? So that,
I think one of the other questions being asked, though, is why we're not replacing the older main in Levitt Street, so.
Well, you know, I can, well, she may say, shed some light on that. I think I mentioned at the last meeting that we're going to be facing probably 5 or 6 miles of gas main on 228 to be replaced, because it's all 101 years old. Right now, they're replacing over a mile on Fort Hill Street. That's 101 years old. We're faced with several sections of gas main down on Howe Street, Whitten Ave, all those roads up there, 101 years old, and that's sitting in, soggy soil. I've been working with a gas company. They've already replaced a great deal of gas main up in that section of Crow Point. They plan on replacing more before we reconstruct that in 2016. We have the oldest gas infrastructure in the country, in this part of the country. And I know that the DPU has been working with the gas company and set goals for X number of miles a year to replace. If they reach those goals to replace that main, they're able to, I guess, assess that charge on the ratepayers. If they don't reach that goal, they aren't allowed to recoup that, expense for the ratepayers. I know over the last 3 years, it's almost the amount of miles of gas main the DPU and the gas company have agreed to replace in order to reach that goal is almost doubled in 3 years. So I know they're being very aggressive. Other than that, the DPU, I think it has a large impact on what gas mains they replace or not, but that's the information, I've been, able to acquire over the last several weeks regarding the gas main.
Thank you. That's good information. Are the DPU goals a statewide goal, or is it city by city?
It's just a, I think by section by section, we have the South Shore, okay, then we have a lot of the similarities that we have in Hingham, up in the Concord area. We have a lot of bare steel 2-inch pipe that was put in when we didn't know how to protect it. And they're trying to get all the bare steel pipe, starting with the most, susceptible will be the smaller, and they're just trying to get as much replaced as possible.
Because last week, or when we met the last time, Old Derby Street had also that same kind of piping.
Yes, yes. If you look at the plans that I tried to get out to you, the lighter blue color indicates to us that's bare steel pipe, and the darker blue one is when we got a little better at it. They got a little better. There was that was wrapped, okay, and a little bit would last a little bit longer. And the plastic, we have no corrosive issues with at all, and that's what we're trying to use now whenever we can. And the only thing that gets in the way of that is steam lime, so we use quite a bit of plastic.
Question?
Yeah.
So who makes the decision to come here today, or to its particular town, to decide we want to get this area done versus Main Street?
There's a lot of communication between the field engineers in the different sections and different people like Harry that are looking to possibly have us come in and get the roads done before he paves the roads, so we can work together to get to double the efforts. And if we can get our main in some place that he's trying to reconstruct, it works for everybody.
What'll drive a road? The 102-year-old piping that is just a matter of time before something ugly happens, or the condition of the road?
Oh, you mean road construction?
Yes.
We would not reconstruct the road with a 100-year-old pipe in it. Just would not do it. We would wait till it got replaced.
Can I ask?
You can if you come up here.
Sorry, my question would be...
And identify yourself again.
Jason Perney, 45
Thank you.
Irving Street. In relation to this particular situation that we're talking about now, since you're going in to assumably bring a team in, wouldn't it be cost-effective to try to replace the section of piping that comes through that section while you're doing the work on Irving Street?
A decision I can make here, and so, like I said, I want to take your information and bring it back to the people that I work for.
Dennis, that would be very helpful, because now we've got two of those. There's Old Derby Street also, and then this one, if you could.
Although, just for purposes of clarity, I think the gentleman from Old Derby Street was talking about the other side of Route 3, that you can only access
Hingham.
it. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know. But
You
what we
just can't
approved
get
last
there
week,
from here,
I
as
think
they
was
say.
the Lincoln Building, that portion of the old Derby Street
Right.
that has the Lincoln Building.
But we've asked Harry and Dennis to go back and look at the rest of it, too, because it doesn't make sense, you're replacing X amount when you still have Y out there.
Yeah, those decisions are made at a much higher level than I work at.
I know in the past, when we've had a situation where we've been replacing a main in one area because of a town need of, paving a road or whatever it might be, and I asked to get more of it replaced. I mean, they come back and say, we work on a budget that's established back in, December, in January, to, get the funds to do this. I mean, all their money's supposed to be allocated to certain projects. Once in a while it works, once in a while it doesn't.
Well,
I would just add, though, that as you know, Irma, from the last couple of years, is that Harry, Roger, and all the utilities, particularly the gas company, has done a lot of work to sort of become a little more seamless.
Yep.
So that they're not, I think 5 or 6 years ago, I could characterize it as the gas company would repair the leaks as they saw fit, and we would repair the roads as we saw fit, and maybe they would meet, but oftentimes they might not. And the public got pretty aggravated about the fact that that road got paved and now the gas company's in there tearing it up. And I think we've pretty much minimized that to only when you have an emergency leak issue. So there's some improvement there, but we don't get to see too far into their realm of what they're going to do. I think at one point in time we got a list from the gas company. Again, it's not Dennis, so I don't want him to be the poor guy to get beaten up over, but several grades above his pay, we met with them and they gave us a list of about 3 years worth of roads they were going to try to work on. And we've usually gotten that from them from time to time. I don't know if we have something current like that about what they're thinking about, but we've asked and they've given it to us in the past.
When the packages are delivered to me, Harry gets a copy the next day. So then, and then after he gets his copy, then the select.
You come back to see us.
Yeah, so I mean, I try to be current on everything that comes my way.
Dennis, you have a lot, because we're not your only town. In fact, tell people how many, because you and I
have
had
about
a
35
nice...
towns that are doing what we're doing here.
So when we...
Other territory.
Well, I mean, the system was put in a while ago.
Do you know how many miles of 100-year-old piping we have, just off the top of your head?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No.
Come on back up.
Dave Powers at 30 Levitt Street again. What I'm hearing is I didn't necessarily expect the gas company to say, okay, we'll replace that line in front of your house. What I'd like is an assurance that you'll, when you replace the 2-inch down Irving Street, which you tie into the main line on Main Street, that you make certain that section is free of leaks, because we have serious concerns that there have been and still are leaks, and I would like an assurance from the gas company, not that you'll necessarily replace the line, I didn't think I'd get that commitment, but that you will look at it carefully, and knowing that trees have died regularly there, that you will look at it carefully and give us as neighbors and townspeople assurances that any leaks have stopped. That's what I would like.
Well, if we're fortunate enough to get the grant, I will put this on, that information will be in the packet that goes to the crew that's going to go out and do the job.
And then can we get a follow-up from Harry, kind of closing the loop on this?
Sure.
And then if you could ask the people that you report back to look at the 102-year-old on 228, that piece of piping. Because I know there's a couple of other areas in town where trees don't seem to be able to survive. And the wives' tale is it's because of gas leaks.
More than tails. We have litigation ongoing with the gas company as part of a larger issue where they, a class action lawsuit, are going to, they're in settlement discussions with all municipalities in Commonwealth of Mass to pay for these type of damages.
Can I just, Dennis, just for clarity's sake, are we looking at maybe a 30-day period, more or less, so that we could get some information back to the neighbors as to when someone's going to come out or how it's going to be handled?
I'm going to forward this message to you. Dennis McCaffrey will be the person I hand off this information to, Community Relations, and he'll be getting back to everybody.
Oh,
You know,
super.
how, I mean, just
I'll speak with him tomorrow.
normally is that within a couple of weeks that it gets back?
I'll see how fast I can get him to move on it. But he's got the South Shore as a, Peter Nagel we had for a number of years, and now Dennis McCaffrey, I'll forward the information to him.
Thank you.
And we'll just keep, I've just started kind of a list of follow-ups from other meetings so that we do kind of come back to the residents.
You want a motion?
I do. Let's, any more questions from the audience? And we will do follow-ups on this. Okay.
Move to
Motion?
approve the request of National Grid to install and maintain approximately 935 feet of 2-inch gas main in Irving Street. This gas main will originate from the existing 4-inch gas main in Levitt Street and continue onto the paved surface of Irving Street for the entire length to completion at house number 9. This gas main will replace an existing 2-inch bare steel decayed main that is approximately 87 years old. This approval is subject to the stipulation of the Department of Public Works, including letter dated May 2014.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next one, Dennis.
Okay. National Grid hereby respectfully requests your consent to install and maintain approximately 45 feet more or less of 2-inch gas main in Prospect Street, Hingham, from the existing 2-inch gas main at house number 222 southerly to the proposed 2-inch gas main in Captain Thomas Lane, and approximately 90 feet more or less of 2-inch gas main in Captain Thomas Lane from the proposed 2-inch gas main in Prospect Street easterly to house number 1 for a new gas service.
Questions? None. Mr. G, this is down in my neck of the woods. This is the real South Hingham. I don't have a problem with this one at all. This was an easy one.
Stand a motion.
Motion? Oh, I'm sorry, any questions from the audience? Okay, now.
Move approximately 45 feet of 2-inch gas main in Prospect Street. This gas main will originate from house 222 and continue under the paved surface of Prospect Street to the intersection with Captain Thompson Lane. The new main will then proceed an additional 90 feet under the paved surface of Captain Thompson Lane to completion adjacent to house number 1, Captain Thompson Lane. This gas main extension is needed to supply house number 1 a new gas service. This approval is subject to the stipulation of the Department of Public Works, including letter dated May 8, 2014.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Excellent. Dennis, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you again. Can we sneak one in before we reconvene? Chief, are you here just for the resource officer? Would you all mind if we... Chief, this is the school resource officer agreement.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, everybody. Okay, before you is a contract to be signed between the Hingham Police Department, the town Hingham, and Notre Dame Academy. Probably back in February, I was approached by Sister Barbara Barry, who's the president of Notre Dame Academy, and the principal, Kathleen Conlon, and they wanted to know if we could have a school resource officer in their school. So I obviously told them I did not have that in the budget, and they said they understood that and that they were willing to pay for it. So after consulting with Ted, notifying the board and the advisory committee, we had the attorneys for Notre Dame Academy and John Coughlin, the town attorney, come up with an agreement, and which you have before you. So we're really excited. The officer will be Joel Salatori, if you remember. He's been on the job about 6 years, and he's very excited about doing the job up there. This contract is a 3-year commitment, because obviously, as I told them, we couldn't do this for a year, and then, because I have to hire somebody to replace this officer, and then if for some reason they didn't want to continue it, I have to lay somebody off, and I didn't want to do that. So they agreed to the 3-year commitment.
Hey, this is great. Questions? Paul Healy.
Hey, Mike. Does this include getting the kids in and out in the morning? And
yes.
Nice.
Nice. Yes.
It's just great work on all areas.
In afternoons?
Yes, this officer will be helping out with traffic. That was one of the things that Notre Dame requested, and the town administrator has numerous times asked me about that. So now we think we solved that problem, too.
Good kid.
Super. Paul?
No questions.
Questions from the audience, especially since we have the school committee here? None?
I think it's also because of the relationship we have with our school committee and our school department. I think we have a really great rapport, and I think Notre Dame has seen this, and they're not only just doing this for the security of an officer in the school. They're very interested in the educational proponent that Officer Ford brings to Hingham High School and Officer Ramsey to the middle school and Officer Marquardt to elementary. So we're really excited, and since the word has got out that this has happened, I've gotten many calls from other police chiefs wanting to know how we did this, so.
Excellent. Mr. Healy?
I'll move that we approve the school resource officer agreement between Notre Dame Academy and the town of Hingham. This agreement will begin on September 1, 2014, and will continue for a period of up to 3 years, or until August 31st, 2017.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thanks, Chief.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Shall we do musical chairs again? Oh, do we want to do, Mike? You want to do the police officer? This will take two. The special officer. Thank you, Betty.
Thank you, Betty. Before you is a request for the board to appoint one special police officer, and it's Michael Bowles. He's on our civil service list. He did an internship here in Hingham at our department back in 2010. He's a Hingham High School graduate. He's a town resident, and with the fireworks and parade coming up, we can use the help. So I'm asking you to appoint one special police officer.
Questions?
No questions.
Okay. Any questions from the audience? I'll take a motion.
Move to recommend Michael Bowes as a special police officer for the Hingham Police Department.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed? Okay, now the musical chairs.
Oh, I hope you were keeping your name up, Ted. Probably want to stay in that chair.
Keep it warm for me, that's fine. Appreciate that. Absolutely.
Let's see.
Oh, it is musical chairs. I never got to sit next to you, but a little sign down.
What a treat.
Yeah.
We have everybody? Excellent. Ray, how shall we do this? Or we'll just open it up to discussion?
Yeah, if anyone
Okay.
has anything they'd like to say or a question they want to ask, or...
Andy?
I would like to know what our process is for narrowing the field, and, I mean, obviously, we're very, very fortunate. We had 5 wonderful candidates. They all did a fantastic job, but, so I guess I would open up the question, how are we perceiving of getting to the lucky person?
Well,
Right. So I think as we talked a little bit about at our meeting last night, we can take this opportunity right now to discuss amongst ourselves, give opinions, ask questions. If there's any additional information that anyone feels that they need in order to make a decision, we can discuss how we could go about getting that. But otherwise, we have 5 candidates, each, I think, present wealth of varied experience, any one of whom would be a great addition to the board. It's just a matter of who we think would be the best fit for this coming 11th month appointment.
and if everybody is comfortable enough, we could go ahead, complete the discussion tonight, and vote, so that at your next meeting, you have a full complement. Because I do agree with Ray. I think we have 5 well-qualified people, each bringing a set of skills and strengths. And I think one of the questions that we need to talk about, do we want somebody who is only going to be there for a short term, but has all the skills and understands what the school committee and what we're going to be dealing with jointly for the next year? Or do we want somebody who says they're going to be there, but they're going to run again? So I'd open it up for that discussion. Well, this is not a shy group.
Well, I mean, so I'll just make a comment. So I think there's only one candidate who indicated certainly he would not seek, to run next year when the term is up. Any of the four, it's unclear whether they would or would not. There's some indication that perhaps they would, certain individuals, but it's unclear. I don't know if that would be an advantage or a disadvantage one way or the other.
What does everybody else feel?
So, Irma, I think that, again, as I think Ray has properly characterized it, that we know that the one gentleman said he really would be looking to help out and bring the expertise that he's
He
had.
may change his mind, too, so.
We never can tell, right? But, my inclination is, perhaps in a broader sense, is we have 5 candidates. They bring different skill sets. They bring different capabilities. I'd be kind of looking toward getting down to a couple of finalists, if you will, and then have an opportunity to talk, to get to know them better. Other than Carol, I really don't know any of the other 5 candidates, the other 4 candidates. So that would be my inclination. I know that provides some logistical issues of getting a group this size together again and whatever, So it really, I'd be interested to hear people's thoughts as to whether that would be worthwhile, or whether, we would see if we feel there's a strong enough opinion that there's a single person that's head and shoulders above, if you will, that would garner a clear majority, then maybe that's not necessary.
I'll open it up for discussion.
I've had this experience both on the planning board and the board of selectmen.
In fact, you've created this experience, right?
When I was on the board of selectmen, I deferred to the wishes of the planning board for its replacement of myself, because they had to work with the person they selected. In my mind, I have a clear idea as to who I think would be ideal to sit on the school committee. But having said that, I'm not on the school committee.
And Esther's not running, right?
No. And so that was a good one.
That's a good one, Dennis.
That was a good one.
That's a very good one.
I'd be very interested to hear what the consensus of the school committee might be. I don't want to drag this out. I think we can do this tonight. I'd even be willing to do a motion right now, but I think if you want to talk a bit more.
Are you adding Esther to the list?
No, I'm not.
I'd be interested to ask, and I think I alluded to this last night, what additional information, assuming that we would follow your suggestion and narrow the field down, what additional information do you feel that you don't have now that you would get from further discussion that would have any bearing whatsoever on the qualifications of someone to serve for the next 11 months?
Well, again, I guess I'm not particularly looking at just someone serving for the next 11 months. As somebody who's come on relatively recently, Liza even more recently, Paul has had the experience. It really takes some time to get up to speed. And so I think, and again, we only know at this point in terms of point, people aren't signing any oaths or whatever that they will or won't run. But my preference would be to have somebody that would come on board that would be interested in serving for a longer term, because I think that person could gain knowledge over the next 11 months that could continue to serve the town. That would be my inclination. Doesn't mean I wouldn't vote for someone otherwise if I thought that person was clearly more qualified. So I don't know how others feel about that. But to answer your question directly, as somebody who is involved in searches and so forth professionally, it seems to me a little strange that my total involvement, other than a resume and a public statement, is 15 minutes to somebody that I might be working with for the next 11 months. So I can't tell you offhand, but I would like to have additional insights as to what those people are like and how they work and where they're coming from and so forth. I know it's a little hard to do that in a public forum, but that would be what I'd be looking for.
So Andy, just one second. I would just to respond to that, I would say that one, none of us had that opportunity when each of us ran. And secondly, no matter who it is that we choose to appoint, there's no guarantee that that person, if he or she chose to run next year, would get reelected. There's no guarantee that any one of us would get reelected, for instance, if we chose to run again. So I don't know that that is necessarily a relevant.
It's not persuasive to me. For me, I'm looking for a fit for 11 months, and at the end of the 11 months, let's see where we stand.
I also think, I'm sorry, I also think that, at least with respect to Carol Falvey, you've had 6 years. And I thought that the leadership she demonstrated with respect to the Fields project was impressive. And I saw it as a planning board member, and I thought that she did an excellent job, to be honest with you, Dennis. I mean, that was a very difficult project. I don't know what it was from your end, but I imagine.
Difficult.
Yeah, it was a lot of work.
Still is at times.
Arduous.
Yeah.
Arduous.
And, to say that you need more time to see her, I just respectfully disagree.
No, I don't, I think what I said was, I think I know her pretty well. I don't know the other 4 people. And again, I'm not saying that in another 30 minutes or an hour, I would know those people anywhere near as well as I know with her, somebody I worked with for a year and saw under fire and other forms of duress. But, again, I'm not suggesting that I'm hard set that would have to be the situation. And to your point, Paul, I'd be interested to hear, Paul Healy, I'd be interested to hear if Liza or Ed or Andy.
Yes, I was going to ask, because I've got some thoughts, but I'd really like to hear everybody else's first.
You had your hand up.
Sure. So going back first to Ray's comment about what else you would like to know, and then tying into what Paul just said, my first objective, and Dennis alluded to this, is narrowing the field. Again, we're very lucky. I can't just voting, one of these people, boom, boom, boom. I need to narrow the field to sort of weigh some things. But if I was to have extra time, Ray, and Paul alluded this, he knows Carol Falvey very well, but if he was leaning that Carol Falvey would be his choice, and one of the other 4 was the other choice, me personally, I'd be watching the video again, because, Aileen came in, was a fireball. She had everything running, and then we went all the way down to Mr. Crane, and so I would want to go refresh myself, because yes, Carol Falvey I've worked with for 3 or 4 of the last years, so she's, of course, I know her the most. But so when you ask me what more information I would get, it'd just be me taking a deep breath and looking at the video and trying to get to know better. So my first thing, of course, is narrowing the field, and like to know how we're going to do that. The second thing is, I'm not so much concerned about the 11-month thing. What I'm really concerned is our needs. And there's so many topics we have going in front of us. I mean, everyone highlighted them all. Not only do we have all the unfunded mandates, we have teachers' contract negotiations. We also have teachers' assessment. Technology, we're in a wonderful position. Ray, a lot due to your leadership on the building committee. I mean, we have a $2 million budget, plus Capital has agreed to help us out to do some things. So technology, of course, and it changes daily. So I'm thinking right now, I'd also like to know, I would weight it first, what do we think our biggest need is as a committee? Where are we least situated as a committee, and who we want to fill it there? So I look at it as our needs.
Why don't you start answering your own question? So who do you think of the 5? You were in the room, so it's fresh.
Right.
Okay. Who do you think of the 5 fills the need that you perceive that we have at the moment?
Well, I mean, I was going to let these guys also talk in, but I'll quickly say, and I reserve the right to speak again, I do think Chris seemed like he had an amazing amount of knowledge when it came to technology. An amazing amount of knowledge there. Mr. Crane, I really liked his experience and fresh set of eyes, and a person who's at his tenure in life is talking about technology, and especially at Natick. So those 2 guys really popped out to me. popped out to me. And of course, Andy Ayers, because of his if technologies are number one thing, it would be Chris and Andy, if that was our number one thing we were going for. So, but I'm not saying that technologies are number one thing. I'm just saying technology is getting a lot of press because we had a meeting very late last night with Park and the new middle school. So I don't want to ever say that technologies are number one thing because I don't want to be on the record. It's one of our main things. But if you ask me what specifically we're talking about tonight, and you ask me who right now, when I look at this, in my recollection, technology, I would think Chris and Andy. But I'm not saying that's the only thing we should be grading on. So I would defer to other people what they think their top priorities are.
Liza?
Well, when I listen to the candidates, I'm thinking about, I've served on this committee for a year, and what are the big issues in my mind that we're dealing with right now? Technology, yes. We are going to have to establish usage policies of when we distribute these Chromebooks. What's going to happen with the responsibility of the student, the parents? What's going to happen long-term with, we're getting them paid for now with the building committee money, but what's going to happen after that? How are we going to start paying for these? What's going to happen in the high school with the usage of technology? And there's policies that are our responsibilities to start developing. Full-day kindergarten. That's a goal for the superintendent to evaluate. That's a topic we're going to be discussing. All of the state mandates continue to be top of mind and also flow into the contract negotiations. And how do we manage all of the demands on the teachers and the staff as well? And then obviously budget and whatever financial policies we need to establish, looking at that. So I'm thinking about what are those issues that we have in front of us, and then who brings to the table some knowledge and some experience, and then also of knowing what's happening in our schools now. I was impressed with Aileen's knowledge. I know Aileen. I've experienced working with her. Frankly, I was quite impressed with Dyke Crane's knowledge of only having, his background of Natick, but also his knowledge of the current issues of today. And, he knew about the Chromebooks in the middle school. He knew about looking at full-day kindergarten. So that, I was pleased that he was up on these current issues. So all of the other candidates we are very fortunate to have 5 candidates who can contribute tremendously. But when I look at the issues in front of me and this committee, those 2 people seem to stand out of being able to tackle multiple of these issues at this time.
Yeah, those are great points. Obviously, those are, just a handful of the issues that we're looking at now, and we're going to be looking at for the next several months and even years. I would say that none of the 5 candidates delved deeply into any of those issues. They may have mentioned a word that made us realize that they were familiar with the topic, whether it was Park or MCAS or Chromebooks or full-day kindergarten. Any or all of the 5 could have very well gotten that information from reading a journal article, watching one of our meetings recently. And we didn't ask follow-up questions to ask them, oh, you mentioned Park. Tell us what you know about Park. So all good points that you made, obviously, but I don't know that any one of the 5 exhibited anything in the brief time with us that leads us to believe that they are better prepared than any of the others just because they mentioned the buzzword.
Mr. Ed, oops, sorry, Liza.
No,
Mr. Ed?
Mr. Ed, for those of us in the
Dr. Ed, I know.
It's a horse.
Of course, of course.
Dr. Ed. And I'll bet half the audience did not know that.
And I do my best.
Well-spoken.
So we'll call you Doc.
I came tonight with the hope and the expectation that we could make a decision tonight. And having been through some of these selection processes in the past, I rated people as we went through, and I gave each of the individuals a title, whether it was legal, technology, or experience. And my thinking, there is just no substitute for the short-term position. There's no substitute for experience. So in my particular distillation, I have narrowed it down to Carolyn Dite.
Interesting. I'll give you my perspective on it. First off, I really do think experience counts a great deal. Also, the ability to work within a group and demonstrated ability to work within a group. Concern for me, I think Chris and Andy are definitely techies. I think they could bring that technology. They've both been in Hingham a significant amount of time, but yet they've no committee experience. And I think for the school committee, it is very helpful to have been on committees before. So you know how the town works. I'm very impressed with Dite. I've seen him on the electronic voting committee. I think he's very useful there, and I see him moving on to other committees, the town-wide. I look at, to me, it's between Aileen and Carol. And personally, I would hope that Aileen would run for a full term. And if she doesn't, she's going to get scooped up by another committee for sure. I think there's nothing, especially with the schools committee and the challenges that you face. You have a great technology group within the schools. I've been working with them. I like them. They're smart. They understand the new technology, more so than the town side, because ours are so busy fighting fires, that I think you have the resources in front of you, that you don't need a techie expert on the committee. It's nice to have one, but I don't think it's that should be the number one requirement. For me, the number one requirement is experience, understanding of the issues across the town, and the ability to drop in for the next 11 months. And heaven knows what's going to happen month 12. Because I could see maybe Dwight kind of rethinking his saying he's not going to run. And I could see him kind of warming up to maybe making a run for 3 years. He's a total joy to be with on the electronic voting. He brings an enormous amount of knowledge. But I think right now for your 11 months, you need somebody that's been there, that has stood up under fire, and she certainly has. But in my mind, for me, it comes down to Aileen and Carol.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
You were saying about committee experience. Now, I didn't have any committee experience before I ran, but I was on plenty of organizations. So are you defining only committee experience as a committee here on the Hingham one? Or, because, I mean, I can go back and look at Chris's resume, but I know Andy said he listed a whole bunch of boards he's involved, so I'm confused on what you mean by committee experience.
I'm looking for a broad range of committee experience, and if I recall, Andy's was more in the sports area, and Chris really didn't have any. Because the things, I remember I worked for Verizon. He's got great experience, and certainly great communication skills and great technical skills. But I think you need somebody that's been around a little bit and demonstrated the ability to work with all kinds of people and all kinds of personalities. Mr. Healy.
Just
Sure.
to add something, I also think, at least with respect to one of the candidates, that individual brings something that is almost unique on the school committee, and that's the actual experience as a student in the system. And raising their children through the system. I think that gives a very important perspective that brings value to the collective decisions that the school committee makes or the Board of Selectmen make. And I don't think that was implicit, perhaps, and not stated, but I don't think that that should be overlooked in this discussion at all.
So, when we had our discussions last night about Park and MCAS, which I'm sure everybody thinks longingly about, I made the comment that, we had kind of reached, it sounded like we were reaching some conclusions, and my point was, is there a compelling reason to do something else or to continue the discussion? So in light of that, I guess my comment would be, again, my initial comment had nothing to do with, in terms of Carol. Clearly, she's very well qualified. She's got great experience. She's shown herself in a variety of situations. I was interested to hear if we was kind of, everybody was kind of coalescing around an alternative, if for some reason. But the people that have spoken, I've heard like 3 different alternatives. So I guess, and Ray, perhaps, I don't know that you were speaking necessarily to the point, but I think made the point that, we didn't have a chance to follow up on questions. We didn't have a chance to get to know the people. On the other hand, am I likely to find out something, that is going to say to me, wow, that person is superior to Carol, who probably would be my first choice, only because in relation to Dite, she has a lot more experience in the town. And I think, I suppose every town is unique. I'm sure Natick is unique and Hingham is unique. I think he has a lot to contribute, but I don't know that necessarily he'd be a better choice in the short term. So again, I raised the point, and I think, and I appreciate having the discussion, but I don't know that that continuing the conversation, having another meeting, and continuing to talk about it based on what I'm hearing is going to lead us to a different conclusion.
I tend to agree with you, Dennis.
I mean, and again, I'm really very pleased, and if the people were here, I would encourage them all, whomever we do not choose, to continue to be involved in school affairs, to run for office in 2015. It's a wonderful experience for some people, and but again, based on what I'm hearing, unless others feel we've kind of coalesced around a second option that we think we would find, has indications would be a superior option. I don't know that we necessarily need to go beyond tonight's discussion, and I kind of heard that from a few people on this side, so I don't know. And Ed, based on what he said, you had 2 people, but would you, if you had to choose between, do you think you know enough tonight to choose between those 2? Because they really offer the same types of things, qualities, right?
Paul would like to say something.
Just briefly, I come from the perspective that I was on the committee with everybody, and my feeling was, and is, that we need somebody now. We got a lot of work. We need to all work together, you guys. I can't say we anymore. I'm not on the school committee. I still feel like I am in some respects, but what seems to make sense to me is we're not always ever going to agree on who the candidate's going to be. There's having more time may help a little bit, but everybody's kind of already got some ideas who they want. Makes sense to me because I think the town would ask us to do it this way, in my opinion, to move on with our businesses. If we have somebody that the majority wants, then we should vote it tonight. And if there's some type of division and not a unanimous, and I shouldn't say majority person, then we can rethink it. But I'm hearing that we have a vote that'll help pick us a candidate tonight. I think the town and the school committee needs it.
I would agree, Paul.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Would you like me to make a motion, ladies and gentlemen?
Well, I was going back to my original question.
Mm-hmm.
I only responded about going another night when I said to Dennis, he'd asked what more information. I said I'd go back and watch it. I was still sort of on the thing, everyone's name sort of got thrown out there when you went this way. I still think we should narrow it down to at least 2 people, and then possibly vote.
Okay.
I mean, that's, unless I'm wrong on that, it seemed like everyone had two people that they were.
But there seems to be one name that's starting to pop up consistently.
Would we do a straw vote? I mean, or a vote? I don't know. I throw that out.
Sure.
Well, I suppose in that regard, if we took a vote and no one had, and there was not a majority,
Right.
right?
Right.
Then maybe we'd say the top two vote getters would become the finalists. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay. Who wants to try a motion?
I'll make a motion that we vote to appoint Carol Falvey to the unexpired term of Paul Gannon, recently elected to the Board of Selectmen for the town of Hingham.
I'll
Wait.
second that.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
A roll call? Oh, okay, roll call.
Aye, for Carol.
Aye.
Aye for Carol Falvey.
Aye for Carol.
Aye for Carol.
Aye.
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 Aye for Carol Falvey.
So be it.
Done.
Congratulations, Carol. And thank all 5 people, and I hope the people that did not get picked will give very, very deep consideration to running, because we had 5 excellent candidates.
An open seat?
Yeah. Okay.
I would take a motion to adjourn the school committee meeting. And we're still in session.
Yes, we are still in session. Of course, you all are very welcome to stay.
Not
I'd like to
me.
make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
See you around the neighborhood.
See ya.
Happy birthday, tomorrow. Thanks.
I got you. Oh, I just. A little more.
Yes. Oh, before everybody leaves, now wait a minute, school committee, come back for a second. You don't have to sit down. Mr. Estes did pass along a small piece of information, and we always do like to have a little bit of happiness with all the difficult decisions. There is a rumor that someone has a birthday tomorrow, and I think he's going to be 39 again, which was my line. Mr. Healy, is there any counselor?
I will be 58 years old tomorrow.
Not 39?
No.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, school committee.
Thank
you.
I wanted to do it with you all in the room. So you're not 39? All right.
1 second.
Okay. We have some votes,
All right.
and we need Ted to explain some of this.
Sure.
Welcome back. We missed the two of you. How is it to sit in the audience?
A great perspective.
So politically well said. All right.
Yes, I'm good on this.
Let's see. Ted, why don't we turn it over to you? Because we've got the Harbor Networks, the new telephone system, and the library boilers, and a couple other things. We're going to skip the approval of minutes.
Sure. The telephone contract, the contract with Harbor Networks is for the installation of a townwide new telephone system. As you know, we've been stalling on the delay of bringing a new system online until the middle school was ready. We're doing it in conjunction with the schools, and it's across the board, across all venues. It gives us a lot of new features. You could see the bids were somewhat close. We got 3 bids on the project, $231,242 and $331,000. I asked Steve, I always like to do this before we go in on big bids especially, I like to know, before we open them, which one did you really want after you looked at all the proposals? And Steve Becker, our IT director who handles the phone system for us, was very clear. He wanted Shortell, and sure enough, they came in as a low bidder. He was most impressed with their product line. So it's always nice when the product line you're most impressed with is your low bid. Steve's very excited to move forward on this. It's been about 8 months worth of work to get to this point.
Is this seamless across the school
Yes.
landscape and the town and the light plant?
I'm not sure about the light plant. It's seamless among all of the town departments and school. So it'll be seamless with the fire department and their remote locations, along with the DPW, all the school buildings, and the town offices.
This seems expensive, but then I haven't been playing around in this arena for a long time. Am I just showing my age? Go ahead, try and answer. This is good. Go
I'm not
ahead.
going to say a word.
Well, I would just say that...
You're
Times have changed.
you're rarely speechless, but this goes down. Is it?
I was
just
told there are
because-
certain things you never answer a question of, and you just raised one of them, so...
Is it just the change in technology and the
What-
vast capabilities of this?
It's a big system. If you look at the number of phones, and each of those phones that you see, I mean, you have one on each of your desks in the other room, and those are $200 to $300 units, and they need to be replicated. We actually tried to go in to save the phone system we have and to get another year out of it, and you know how I love to just get another year out of things. We actually went out and picked up discontinued headsets, phone sets last year, and knew they're $300-400. We were able to get them for a couple $100s because they were discontinued. But it's just the quantity of the systems. I mean, you're talking about all the school buildings and the town hall. Those are a lot of drops, a lot of locations. So it's actually not one large item. If you start looking at the individual invoices, it's just a lot of 200 to 300s adding up. I was actually too surprised on it. I will say, though, that I think you have a copy of it, but if the other two members of the board don't have it, because it was a couple of years ago, I asked Steve Becker to do a total cost analysis of the phone system. We made a move to an IP phone network about 14 years ago. This is the replacement of that. And it was rather successful. We think we saved several times the purchase of the last phone system, and Steve deserves all that credit. He spelled it out quite nice in the memo. I think you're going to see the same thing here.
Nice. Questions?
I bought a phone system for our firm about 20 years ago. Nothing this big, but we still have it, and it still works. Believe it or not, one of the things that kind of makes me grit my teeth is the maintenance fees, the periodic maintenance fees, and the user license renewals. Is what is proposed here typical for a contract of this size? To me, it seems like there's a huge disparity between the top bidder and the low bidder, and I have no idea as to why there's a $100,000 variant.
The top bidder is considered the most expensive product line in the industry. So there are certain things, I can give you an analogy with vehicles, car vehicles, for example. We just know certain cars, regardless of whether they have an intrinsic quality above it, they just command a premium. And that one is, you'll see that on virtually every bid. The other ones, I think, Avaya and ShoreTel were very close to each other. It does include the appropriate amount of licenses and the renewals, and that is a way of life, because that's how a lot of the companies continue. And to some extent, there's a validity to that, because the software that drives a lot of these systems needs to be updated. And we've seen this in other packages. I know that on our computer package, we use Munis is our primary software package for the town, and everybody has at one point in time, if they've been involved in the budget, complained about the user fee that we have to pay. But that fee is keeping our software current. The software we bought in 1995 is the software we're using in 2014. It's the same software, it's just been upgraded, and we haven't paid for that upgrade. If we wanted to go out and buy that software, we paid $100,000 for it in 1995. Today it's worth probably $350,000 to $400,000. And so you're getting that. When a company doesn't charge those type fees, I'm pretty suspicious about whether we want to do business with them long term, because how are they going to survive and give us updates that we're going to need, and our investment will become stale. The investment in these type of things generally is more the human investment, the training, than it is the actual physical equipment. So
Can Steve do the training? Is this a trainer?
Yeah, we will do all our internal training on this. We'll send Steve and Kate around to all the, and Joe Andrews will handle the school side of it, so.
Ted, just because I don't know the answer, obviously, hopefully you do. Do we budget a certain amount of money for this?
So on the second page, we have the breakdown of the budget, actually on the bottom of the first page and the second page, and you could see all the different components of it. There's a portion for the town, the portion that we encumbered from the previous of the town. South Elementary has a portion, middle school has a portion in the budget, and that's where we get our totals to come up to it. And I believe...
Where's the high school?
I don't believe the high school is part of this, this package. But it is going to work with the high school because of the technology that we requested. And I think you can start to see the lists of all the places here.
Right, in my question, I did see that though, Ted, and my question was, just because I don't have the answer, obviously, is did we previously budget a certain amount of money? We knew this was coming?
Yes.
And is this the breakdown of what we budgeted on page 2?
Correct, yeah, we've been budgeting, for example, we started, I think, a little early on the town side, and on South Elementary, it was on the 5-year capital plan, so when it came up, it was ready. The middle school was new, because it was part of the middle school construction. There was no, per se, capital budget for it, but we knew it was coming. So it was either, you're going to build a middle school, or we're going to say you need to upgrade that phone system, because it wasn't going to meet their needs.
And I do remember talking about it at school committee, about some of the, coming down the line. I just didn't know from our perspective as to how we handled it.
Yeah, no, we budgeted each aspect of this.
Is there more money in the school building budget for the middle school, and is this only a piece of it?
I think it is only a piece of it, because I think they had a portion of the money within their budget. But I think that also may be for other side of the, cabling per se, or other aspects of the development of the building and the system.
Would you like a motion?
I would love a motion.
Okay. I'll move that we vote to sign a contract with Harbor Networks, Inc. in the amount of $229,378 for the installation of a new telephone system, which will replace the current system in the following locations: Town Hall, North Fire, South Fire, DPW, Public Library, South Shore Country Club, Middle School, Plymouth River School, East School, South Elementary, Gatehouse, and Fuel Depot.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. Next.
Next, I'm going to do my best to stand in for Dennis Corcoran for the library. He is requesting you to sign a contract with George T. Wilkinson, Inc. of Rockland for $138,670 for the replacement of the boiler at the Hingham Public Library. My understanding is this project has come in under bid. I spoke with Roger earlier and asked him if he wanted to give me any input for you, and he said, I think it's pretty straightforward. The bid results are on the second page. You can see that Wilkinson was the low bidder. We received bids of $138,000, $159,000, $168,000, and the estimate of $203,000 is the budget.
Great. And I know they did quite a bit of due diligence on this, because it came in so much under budget. And this is a very well thought of firm. So Paul and Paul, any questions?
No, I replaced the boiler in my house, and I didn't see the model or the make. I don't suppose we know that. We just know the company.
No, actually, Betty, do you remember? It's the equivalent of a Baderas, but it's not a Baderas.
But it's a clone, from what I understand.
It's another European, and I think Betty and I looked at the name, and neither of us could pronounce it, so.
Okay, that's good enough for me
Yeah,
then.
it's, Ted, how long have we been talking about this? Wasn't I still on Capitol?
Well, maybe not quite that long, but it might have been on the end of the 5-year plan when you left. We've been, I know it went through the appropriation process twice, so we've been talking about this for at least 7-8 years solidly, and I think we broached the subject with Dennis 10 years ago, because, the concern of course, is you've got a collection of books in there that's worth several $1 million. It's all protected with a sprinkler system. That boiler goes out in the wrong time of the year. you could see a lot of water in the library. And that was always a concern, why we almost, put an emergency generator in there just to make sure that it didn't happen. This is long overdue.
Thank you. Paul?
Make a motion?
Sure.
Motion to sign a contract with George T. Wilkinson, Inc., Rockland, Mass. for $138,670 for the Hingham Library boiler replacement project.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Excellent. Okay, last one, oh, almost last one. The permit fee for the light plant?
So it's standard practice, municipal entity within the town, either a town department or, quasi, as they're building they're pulling the building permit for the light plant, a new light plant over in Bear Cove Park. And so our practice is to waive the fees. Recommend that you do.
I'll move that we waive the building permit fee for the Hingham Municipal Light Plant for the demolition of the former New England Wildlife Center.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then I think the last two are yours, Mr. Ted. Legal.
Oh, I have an old agenda, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Take mine.
I have it on the votes. It's a vote to ask you to request an increased authorization. I don't have the amounts, Betty.
I didn't have an amount to...
Okay, so I would request that you...
We hold these till the next time?
No, we have to have them both now. They're both, Real Estate Council has exceeded the budget on both of these items, and they're both active cases. Specifically, I could ask her to stop on the Bear Cove Park until the next meeting, but I think something might come up I'd like her to be involved in. SEB, that's not stopping, so we need to continue that going forward. I certainly would request a minimum of $5,000 each for both of those activities.
SEB is?
SEB is the 40B development on Main Street that she's working on, and I believe that the ZB had a hearing last night,
4 hours.
I think.
It was on TV, I caught the end of it.
No, we're not doing any advertising here for ZBA members that way. It was a meeting last night. Long one.
Well, there go the talent bank applications for CBA.
Just a quick question on the, and in terms of when we authorize money for legal counsel or anything, is it the normal process that we have a dollar figure or not to exceed, or?
In the past, what we've asked is, in a way for us to try to manage our expenses, is I have an authorization up to $5,000. Anything over that, we come in front of the board and we ask for the board, and when we exceed the authorization, as we get ready to, we come in and increase that if we need to. So it's our way of, the advisory committee was very strong a few years back with the selectmen, different board at the time, but saying that they wanted better controls on legal, and so the way we've tried to manage it is to keep it budget. And I will say that Real Estate Council is probably our best of all our attorneys on giving us a budget and then adhering to it, and Betty manages that process.
And I believe me, I understand that. I'm not really completely comfortable with voting for fees to be paid for something where I have no idea what it is. I just don't, and that's not, I don't want to be disrespectful of the process or try to slow it down, but I don't know what I'm voting. I'd like if there was not to exceed a certain amount, at least I would know.
5,000.
We could certainly do that. We plan on having you have a meeting with both litigation counsel and real estate counsel on SEB within the next, hopefully within the next week. We're trying to schedule it.
And then the Bear Cove Park, Ted and I talked today, and we're gonna, when that one is ready, we're gonna do that one in public.
Correct. And we're moving pretty close to that, but we have some more agreements that we have to finalize.
I know there's been a lot of issues and a lot of talk about the Bear Cove Park, but that one we're gonna bring forward and do here. So maybe both of these, not to exceed 5,000 until we get.
Sure.
Is that good?
Thank you.
Do you need a motion?
Oh, yeah.
Then I'll move that we authorize additional legal counsel for SEB not to exceed $5,000, as well as additional legal counsel for Bear Cove Park not to exceed $5,000.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
We're waiting on minutes? We got one
Yeah.
set?
Yeah, I guess he hasn't read them.
Okay.
Paul, I think Paul's the only one that's read them.
I read them.
So you did? Then it's me.
That's okay.
Okay,
He
thanks.
commented, I said, I should add that too.
I know, I thought that was a very good addition. So, Paul's.
Oh.
Paul's. Paul's.
Just checking.
Say Paul, you can pull those covered.
How about Selectmen Town Administrator reports?
I have
Ted?
nothing to
You have
report that I
nothing.
haven't talked to you about.
Oh, my. Paul?
I don't have anything at this time. I'm hoping to play in that golf tournament coming up, if they're still going to have it for the Selectmen's.
Great
Oh, that was
segue.
mine. Yes, here you go.
I will tell you that there are 40 foursomes signed up.
Wow. Feast or
That's it.
famine.
No, that's it. We need more,
We need double that
a lot more.
for them to make it viable. So real push in the next week to get everybody out there for June 16th.
Well, it doesn't really matter how I play, but I'm going to be playing with my dad right around Father's Day, and that'll be
Oh, that's nice.
nice enough for me.
I'm going to try and get a foursome up, and
I'm
the
going to be out there
clubs.
too, guys, so.
Are you really?
This is going to be funny.
This is going to be ugly.
I'm telling you, it's a best ball tournament, and if you haven't played golf in a while and you want to get out there and have some
Exactly.
fun, you get to hit any one of your, any one of the balls in the
You put this
foursome.
on
So it's a fun time.
Got a
They put a
fighting
good
chance
food
there.
on afterwards, and even
Bob,
if
see if you can pick this up again. Ted says he doesn't play, but he always
He's
brings a
asleep.
ringer. So,
Sleep back there.
I just play with family, so so I don't know how family can be ringers. It's just a little special time with my brother-in-law.
Sounds good, right?
but please, everybody, if you would support the Selectmen's Cup, because it supports the 4th of July parade. That was on my list of things to talk about.
And I know that people, and remember you mentioned this to me, and it's a great point. I know that there are a lot of organizations working all for the 4th of July and the parade and all of the activities, the fireworks and other activities that occur in this area, and this is one of them. So I don't want people thinking that they're cross purposes. They all have different parts of the 4th of July festivities.
I'd like to just say a couple things, if I could.
Sure, go ahead.
This is to Amy Cowan. Thanks for that touch boat thing. My
Awesome.
grandson did go
Awesome.
down there, and Harbor Master Corson was quite impressive with his boat. My grandson loved it. And I wish Hal Goldstein a speedy recovery.
Yes, I just found out about that.
He is my protagonist, if you will, on the Main and Cushing traffic light issue, and I always enjoy spirited discussion with Hal on that issue. So, other than that,
That's it?
that's it.
On behalf of the three of us, and Ted and Betty, I want to thank everybody for the Memorial Day events that we had. The remembrances were excellent. The speaker, Rear Admiral Margaret DeLuca Klein, was really awesome. And thank the veterans and all of the units and the Boy Scouts. I know there were some Girl Scouts out there, but it's always so neat to see the kids carrying the wreaths. And we want to thank Norman Grossman at Linden Ponds. All three of us were at the Linden Ponds ceremonies, and they were just excellent, very, very well done. So thank you for that. And also congratulations to the 245-ish, I think that's the number, it's 245, high school graduates Saturday from Hingham High. The very well-done ceremony, as always, Dr. Gerard McCann and, of course, Dr. Gallo. Very, very well done. We were on the new turf field, and the three speakers from the class, it's amazing what these young adults, because they're no longer kids, they're young adults, the way they express themselves, and it was really, really great.
I agree. That was fantastic.
Okay, is that it?
All right.
That's it?
Good night, everyone.
Happy birthday, Paul. Move to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all.